We are recording the interview of Edward M. Wheat. This interview is being conducted by Ericka M. Carter from the Wright State University Veterans Voices Project. This interview is being recorded at the Holiday Inn in Fairborn, Ohio. It is 4:55 p.m. on October 19th, 2019. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
Being a part of this wonderful reunion.
It is a great reunion, yes.
Fantastic. Can you tell me where the reunion is from? I don't want to mess it up.
Where it's from?
Yes,
Conguado.
Conguado.
Yeah, this is our, I believe it's our 18th reunion. And since 2002, the first reunion was in 2002. Everybody who's a member of Conguado Vets served on the island of Conguado in South Korea.
So happy you guys have been able to get together and enjoy each other's company.
How? Is that what you said?
No, I'm happy that you have.
Happy.
Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Okay, so where and when were you born?
Kansas City, Missouri, June the 18th, 1943.
43?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My father's name was Edward M. Wheat, and I'm the second. Edward M. Wheat, the second, actually, is formally my name. And my dad was, on the birth certificate, it actually says he was manager of a defense plant. And I believe that was because the business had a contract with the U.S. government, with the Army, military. Anyway, and my mom was a housewife, and her name was Ruth Beckwith Perry. That was her name.
Okay. Did you have any siblings?
3 younger sisters. Right, about. And I think my oldest sister was 4 years after I was born, and then the others followed along behind that.
Okay. I want to assume that they didn't serve in the military.
Nope.
Okay.
In fact, nobody in my family served in the military.
So you were the first?
Yeah, in my immediate family. I had an uncle who was in the U.S. Army. 2 of them, actually, 2. One was an uncle by blood in my father's line. He was a younger brother of my dad. He served, I think, possibly in the Marines, but I'm not sure about that. And the other uncle was by marriage, and he was in the U.S. Army. He was horribly wounded at the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, wow. Did he ever talk to you about that?
No, he became an alcoholic and died young, real young, in his 40s, I think, maybe 46, 47. Again, you know, maybe in his 50s, but certainly not in his 60s. And the alcoholism was a result of the wounds that, of course, affected his life.
Well, you've taken a better path.
I escaped a lot of potential windfalls, or problems and obstacles, yeah.
Okay. What were you doing before you joined the military?
Well, I was about 19 when I joined, and I had been just in school, and I graduated from high school. And I was in junior college, and I was working for my dad. He had a business, and I was working for him. And basically, I flunked out of junior college. That's the precipitating factor that led me to enlist in the U.S. Army.
What kind of business did your dad have?
It was rebuilt auto parts.
Did you enjoy that job?
I would say I was fairly neutral about it. There were parts of it I liked. Yeah, and I got to deliver a lot of rebuilt auto parts to various places around Kansas City.
I have frequented Kansas City a lot lately in the past year and a half. Your freeways are quite nice.
Oh yeah, they really are. Well, they were among the original freeways that were built in the Eisenhower interstate system, actually.
I can't say that nothing is close to each other, though. It seems like everywhere you go, it takes you 20 minutes to an hour to get there. Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
So, college wasn't for you.
Well, no.
Did you do anything in high school? Were you in any on any teams or in any clubs?
Well, I was in the Spanish club.
Espanol?
Chemistry club. What?
Espanol?
Yeah, Espanol.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, we did various things in the Spanish club, including trying to learn Spanish. I took it as a course also. But I was not in any athletic activity. I was not in the elite clubs and fraternities and so on. In fact, I mean, I can remember clearly thinking, you know, I'm going to graduate. I should probably join a club or something and get it in the yearbook. And I joined the Spanish club and the chemistry club. And I tried to join the physics club, but the faculty member who ran that was a little stern about it, strict, you know.
Were you good at those things? Were you good at chemistry and physics?
I was good at everything in school, actually.
So was not getting through college shocking to you?
Yeah, it was a shock to my parents, that's for sure. And it was to me too. I realized, I said, you know, why is this happening? But I actually dropped out of my first year of junior college. That's when I dropped out.
So you're working with Dad. You say, I'm going to join the Army. Why that branch?
I was recruited. When I flunked out of junior college, the recruiter immediately called me and wanted me to, you know, apply and so on. It never really had crossed my mind to any extent until then. And you know, he said some things just in the initial phone interview that I found interesting, like what MOS I might get, and the I'm trying to think, the phrase that the recruiters were using at that point was the Army, it's your choice. And you know, so he was talking a lot about the fact that I could more or less choose any profession. I didn't really know what an MOS was, but you know, choose any profession. And at that point, I wanted to be a ceramic engineer, and So that's what I told him. He wrote it down. And that was the last I ever heard of it.
What is a ceramic engineer?
Oh, it's a person who, the whole field of ceramics was really big at that time. I mean, Time magazine had a cover story. It was, and you know, so you're making things, designing, I should say, things out of varieties of ceramic material like insulation, the insulators on big electrical lines and so on are ceramic. And there had been an article, like I said, in Time magazine that made it sound really exotic and cool. And so at that point, I started saying, when I was asked, my senior year in high school, I want to be a ceramic engineer. It sounded different.
And sounds like it pays well too.
Yeah.
Like high-priced pottery.
Yeah, this is high. Very good, yes. That's exactly it.
Okay. So the recruiter calls, you take the ASVAB. The ASVAB?
I don't know what that is.
They made you take a test before you joined?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, they call it the ASVAB now. Mm-hmm. And that said what jobs you could qualify for.
I took that, yeah, a lot of other tests too, a variety of tests really.
Mm-hmm. And then they said, okay, pick a job from this list.
Yeah.
And ceramics engineer wasn't on that list?
No, but there was engineering, you know, materials engineering, I think, was listed, and God knows where on the list it was. But what happened was very simple. I was more or less, and I use the term railroaded, but guided into the ASA and into language school. And more or less, I was told, you know, this is what you're going to do. And it was based on test scores.
Can you tell us what ASA is?
Army Security Agency. It no longer exists. It was an intelligence branch of the U.S. Army. All of the services had one. There was the Air Force Security Service, the Naval Security Group, the Army Security Agency, and I think the Marines might have been in the Naval Security Group with the Navy. And it was, well, what can you say? It's intelligence gathering. And it's each of the services had their own little intelligence gathering setup. The Army Security Agency was what I was in. Eventually, that only lasted until 71, I think. Maybe 76, 71's. Anyway, the ASA was disbanded and folded into military intelligence, as I understand it. I mean, some people could probably give you a better description of what happened.
So you picked your job and then you went to basic training?
Yeah.
Where was your basic?
Well, no, wait.
Oh, okay.
I filled out forms and, you know, kind of talked about MOS. But it wasn't until the very end of basic when I found out I was going to language school, the U.S. Army Language School, which was renamed the Defense Language Institute at some point down the line. I think it was after I was out of the service. But it was the U.S. Army Language School in Monterey, California. That was where it was located. It wasn't until the very last week or day of basic that I learned where I was going.
So you had to do that in addition to ASA school?
Well, there's no ASA school. The Army Language School was the ASA school that I went to.
Oh.
But the Army Language School was not just ASA, it was other units and people, and we had everything from officers. A lieutenant colonel was in one of my classes, and Marines, Air Force, they kind of stayed away, but the Marines, the Naval Security Group, they all took courses at the U.S. Army Language School.
So what you're explaining is really different than what I understand it to be. So can you please tell me about what your actual training was, or how it went about, or?
I don't, there wasn't any ASA school, no ASA training, unless you say that the, U.S. Army Language School was an ASA school, you could say that. I mean, and most of the people that were taking the courses, you could take 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 24 months in language, depending on what language.
What language did you learn?
Korean. No, it's not the one I wanted.
What did you want to learn?
Spanish. Well, they gave me a list of 32 languages at one point and said, okay, you're going to language school. Which one of these languages do you want? And I said, well, I picked Spanish, number 1. I rank ordered them from 1 to 32. Number 32 was Vietnamese, for obvious reasons. And number 31 was Korean. So someone made the choice for me. It was my 31st choice. So.
Now I'm dying to know what number 2 was.
Well, Italian, Spanish, Italian, German, French. I mean, I'm not sure the exact order, but those were the
top ones.
The Romance languages were top.
Huh. And how long did it take you to get through Korean?
12 months.
Can you still speak some of it?
안녕하십니까.
Is that yes in English?
It's hello.
Oh, okay.
How are you? It means something like, if you put it in, it's come in peace. Something like that. And then Annyeonghaseyo shipshio is go in peace. So if somebody's leaving the room, Annyeonghaseyo. And of course that's all very formal. The informal would be annyeonghaseyo.
Oh, I remember that. I remember saying that when I was there.
Mm-hmm. That's the informal Korean. We were taught formal Korean, which I found interesting later when I got to Korea and realized, I didn't really know street language. I didn't know. I knew formal. I had a huge vocabulary compared to the average Korean. Oh yeah. Because we went to class 8 hours a day, 5 days a week at language school for 12 months, and with breaks. And we constantly learned vocabulary. A list of vocabulary every day, every week, every month, whatever. So I did not get my choice, the recruiter said, the Army, it's your choice. Well, it wasn't. Really, I mean, somebody else made those choices for me, and I think if I have to talk about it, it's probably the test scores. Because Korean is rated as one of the most difficult of the languages that were taught at the Army Language School. Of course, Spanish, and so on, are easier, in quotes, easier, but learning a language is very difficult. It doesn't matter which one it is. But the idea was that Korean and Serbo-Croatian and Vietnamese. They were all rated as difficult.
Did we talk about basic training?
No.
We just skipped right over that. Got into the good stuff.
Yeah. But you want me to talk about basic?
Yes, where did you
Okay.
go to basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Oh, Fort Lost in the Woods.
Yes.
Did they call it that then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And among other more horribly crude things, of course. But yeah, Fort Lost in the Woods. And it was, lost in the woods. And I reacted in an odd way to basic. I liked it a lot because the reason is very simple. If I'm analytical about myself, I was really tired of civilian life, real tired. Here's a great story. I went to junior college, and I took 5-6 courses. One of them was an English course. I don't know what it was. American Lit, maybe. I don't know what it was. I walked in, sat down, and the teacher I had in senior high school was teaching the course. The same teacher that I had as a senior in high school was teaching the freshman college course. And I shouldn't have been surprised, shouldn't be, but there it was, and it really irritated me. I thought, my God, I went through that, and now I've got the same teacher in college. But that was one thing, there's just a lot of stuff it's hard to explain, but I will say this, a lot of ASA flunked out of college. A lot. Very high percentage. And probably for a variety of reasons. But a lot of ASA are dropouts. Flunked out of college, like I did. So after a while, I just dropped out and, was looking for work. And the recruiter almost immediately called me in. At the junior college, he was a recruiter. He called me and I went and visited with him. And the rest is history, but yeah. But basic to me was kind of a relief. I had been a Boy Scout. I was a very active Boy Scout and reached the level of Eagle Scout actually. And went to a summer camp, 4 or 5 years. Loved it. I absolutely loved summer camp. But summer camp was basic training. It was like, you lived in a barracks, actually a tent. And, you got up with reveille and you went to bed with taps. The Boy Scouts of America are very militaristic in their structure. They don't have to be militaristic in their content. It depends on the leadership. But there were Boy Scout troops that, did a lot of shooting and calisthenics and so on. They were very military. The one I was in was not, but I really liked basic training. I hate to admit it because so many people say they hated it. No, but it's true. There was a regimen to it. There was a schedule.
Structure.
Structure. Very good, thank you. Structure. There was a structure to it. My life had become not structureless, but it lacked.
Chaotic, maybe?
A little bit more. It was certainly more chaotic than it had been. And, So anyway, to me, basic training was actually not a bad deal.
I enjoyed basic training very much.
I told my mom on the phone about the second week she called, or I called, whatever. I said, "Oh, I really enjoy this," and she was shocked. There was a schedule to it. Maybe I'm a scheduled person, but you got a certain time. You know, things were more or less laid out. You didn't really have to make decisions. You learned a lot. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff in basic about weaponry and other things.
Do you think that those structured times, do you still carry those with you?
I think so. I think I'm a person who likes structure, likes to know what the agenda is. But I don't want to overdo that though, but yeah, I think I do carry it with me a little bit.
Is there any specific memory you might have about basic training or about language school that you want to share? Any drill instructors, any knuckleheads?
There's a couple I can't mention to you, but
why not?
Well, because they were it's the drill sergeants sometimes can be rather crude and direct in what they say, and so
this is what this is for. We got to tell people how it really went down.
Well, the language used by drill instructors is often rather harsh and crude.
I was a diesel mechanic. I think I can handle it.
Ooh, wow. That's cool.
I can put a warning on our.
Well, I'm just not, I can't, but it's like...
allude to it then.
I remember there was one of our instructors, and it was, I think, actually he was in the, we were learning about various weapons. And I was standing there grinning about something. And suddenly, this guy was in my face, right? And he looked at me and said, "What's so funny, blank face?" I mean, my God, it just, it was tremendous. And so there were things like that that happened during basic. One thing that struck me when I went to basic training, I had not seen a comic book for years, but everyone was reading comic books in basic training. And I thought a lot about that. And of course the PX had a gigantic array of comic books, superhero mainly. And I thought about it. I don't have anything more to say about it, but it really kind of bothered me that people in their 20s and even more were reading comic books. And I hadn't read one in, God knows, 5 years, 10, 15, I don't know. Anyway, that struck me.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it means, but I never did figure it out. Like I said, I liked it. The classes on the weapons, the shooting and, marksmanship. I shot sharpshooter on an M1 and expert on M14 and M14 carbine.
And what was the last thing?
M14 carbine, it's that smaller version. It's an M14, but it's seems smaller anyway.
I don't know if I've ever seen that weapon.
Well, they probably did away with it. I mean, we're talking ancient history.
Now I'm going to have to go look it up.
Yeah, carbine, carbine.
Okay.
It's a type of weapon, and it's been used in history with different armies. And it's lighter. It's easier to control it. I mean, an M14 and an M1, oh my God. It was, it was, those were heavy and hard to handle. We learned to field strip them and all, I mean, I kind of like that.
Did you end up using a weapon at all in your job?
No, only as shooting for record. That's the only way I used it.
And how often did you do that?
Once a year. We shot on Conway Do, the island that I was stationed on in Korea. I think I fired for record twice during the time, and my time there was only 15 months, I think. But at some point in there, I did fire for record twice.
Okay. So let's see. So a year and 3 months have gone by, at the very least. And now you're headed to Korea, of course, because you know the language. And so you...
Well, there's an intermediate period school that I went to.
What school is that?
After the U.S. Army Language School, I went to something called Proxy Apprenticeship Training, which was a couple of months, 3 months maybe. I can't even remember. But it was after what it did was you learn Korean, but of course you were learning civilian Korean. But proxy apprenticeship training, you got a little bit more insight into what you were going to do. Once you became whatever you were going to be.
Well, that's nice. They didn't kind of just throw you in a, language, deep end, drop, right?
No, it was, they tried to give you a feel. This was, it was done at, I wrote on this forum, Petaluma, California. It was at Two Rock Ranch Station, Petaluma, California.
Above San Francisco.
Yeah. And it's where the Birds were filmed, the movie, The Birds.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they gave us training, sort of exercises in what we might actually experience in the field as Korean linguists. And that was proxy apprenticeship training.
Did all of the other linguists go to an ASA like you, or did they go to different other sites?
I can only say that I don't know the answer to that. But some did go to other kinds of work and sites, yeah.
Do you feel like you got the lucky end of the stick?
It was pretty good duty.
Okay.
It was real good, actually.
I've been meaning to ask, how was it from Kansas City to California?
Oh my God. That's a good question. It was like night and day. I mean, I'd grown up in Kansas City, and in Kansas and Missouri, mainly in Missouri. I hadn't really traveled that much. In the Boy Scouts, I took a trip to the Gulf of Mexico, rode on a cruiser, Coast Guard cutter or something, but we took a little trip out into the Gulf on a ship. And I learned that I was probably going to be seasick if I ever got on a ship again. But I'd basically been in Kansas and Missouri, mainly in Kansas City, Missouri, and that was my experience. Very different than Monterey, California, which is where I went after basic, to the language school.
Sure is beautiful up there.
Oh, Santa Barbara's better than that, though.
I'm from California.
Yeah.
I
It's
know.
far better than even Monterey. Monterey was like a paradise when I got there. And I was there for a year, you know.
So much less traffic back then, too.
Oh, yeah, it's so different, you know.
Okay, back on track.
Yeah.
You flight out to Korea. Was it on a military plane or civilian?
Yeah, MATS, Military Air Transport Service.
Okay.
I think that's what it was, yeah. And it was, yeah. And I was on leave after language school. And I don't know, it was 2 weeks or what it was. And I caught a hop from Richards Gebaur Air Force Base, which later had a different mission, on a big transport plane. And an officer, I think a colonel, needed hours and flew the plane. And we went down to Texas, California, and finally we went to Japan. Yeah, spent a couple of days in Japan and then flew on a different plane to Korea.
How old are you at that time?
At that time, 19, maybe 20. I'd have to look, I'd think about it. But I was born in 43, so and this we're talking about 61, 62, of course. 63, I believe, is the year I got to Korea, I think.
So you're 20.
Yeah, I must have been just 20.
43 to
just
60.
20.
Okay.
And like you said, actually, or implied, it was very different than Kansas City.
Did you have a favorite thing to eat in Korea?
Kimchi and bulgogi.
Oh, I didn't care for kimchi.
Yeah, a lot of the people here don't, who are in this group, they don't like kimchi.
But some bulgogi.
Yeah, yeah, give me some bulgogi.
What is bulgogi?
It's beef. It's
Just seasoned differently?
Seasoned with soy sauce, a lot of salt, unfortunately, and sesame sauce. Now, there's the key to it, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Sesame sauce. And it's, I guess they call it broiled.
Okay, we're getting sidetracked again. Okay. Anyway, so you work in a building with special access. You got to get special clearance.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the line clearance.
Top secret clearance, that's right.
What do you do every day?
Well, I don't know if I can talk about that.
Okay.
Let me put it this way in a historical frame. Actually, what I did has a 3,000-year history stretching back to Egypt. And one of the pharaohs is famous, and I wish I could think of his name. I mean, I studied him, but one of the pharaohs, the head guy of the Egyptian state, created what we call bureaucracy today. And what he did was he would take the children of the upper class Egyptians and paid them to work for the state. And that was the beginning of bureaucracy, really. I mean, there'd been something like it at other places, but the Egyptian state created the bureaucrats who are paid, government employees. And this is a fact that almost no one in this group knows. I'm going to try to tell them about it someday. There were the first two bureaucrats that were created were called hearers and watchers. So you had one group that was listening. I think they were called hearers, maybe it was listeners. And the other group was the watchers, and they watched. So if you can figure it out, I mean, what they're doing basically are the two basic things of espionage. They're listening and watching the other people, and the non-Egyptians, and the Egyptians who are traitorous, And so what I did has a 3,000-year history. I was a hearer. That's as far as I'll go.
My thought goes to, well, they don't even have the job anymore. You can tell us. We won't tell anybody.
Well, yeah, but you're kind of bound by law and so on.
I know. I'm just kidding. I just keep thinking.
Yeah, there are certain limits to what I'll say, but yeah.
So tell us about Korea then.
Korea was a fantastic experience for me.
Why?
It wasn't Jackson County, Missouri.
That should say it all, right?
That's it. Yeah, I had been to Mexico. I'd been out in the Gulf on the Coast Guard cutter. I had, in the Boy Scouts, we took trips. 7, I think they were 10 days, actually. It was a really good deal. We went to Canada. So I'd been to Canada. I'd been to Mexico. But that was it. I mean, Missouri and Kansas. You're familiar with them. So, Korea was a fantastic sort of wonderland. Paradise, wonderland, I would call it a wonderland. It was just the language, the people, the culture. And let me make this point. When I went to Korea, 63, 64, I was there I'm leaving out one of my duty stations, actually. I think it was more like March or April 63 to December 64 was my timing. On the island of Conwado, it was November of 63 to December of 64. So, but I had that period before when I was stationed at the what is the formal name? I was stationed at Company D North. And I can't even tell you whether it was what the big unit was that I was at. Anyway, Company D North. They were nickname was B Forward. It was B Backward. B Backward. That's, you know, it was in two parts, that company.
Mm-hmm.
And B North was on the DMZ. B South was behind it about, I don't know, 40 or 50 miles. Company. It was a company, but it had two parts. So I was there, I guess, March, April. I think I enlisted in March, actually. But, and then I went to, of course, I've been in basic training. I can't, now I erase that. But, after basic, when I was sent to Korea, I did not go directly to Kanwado. I went to Company B North, the northernmost U.S. military base in Korea. I mean, we were looking right at the North Koreans. We were right on the DMZ.
I want to assume that your experience there was different than most people's because you fully understood the language.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can't say I fully understood it, but having the command of the language that I had was made a huge difference.
Now, I would have used that fully for the benefit of shopping. I spent every check that I had there. Was shopping a big deal while you were? Was it a big thing for the service members back then?
Well,
I mean, you didn't have like women and stuff, so I can't imagine. But like the blankets and the art and things like that, were those still?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I bought, you know, brass art objects made by Koreans. And I've got some pottery and stuff like that. You bought it in the marketplace.
Did you barter?
No. I gave them cash, you know, basically.
I'm sorry. Did you bargain?
Bargain with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, $2, no, $1.
Yeah, I wasn't really good at it, but yeah, I did.
You tried?
I tried to.
Okay.
Tried to bargain. And that shopping was not a big deal among the male military. I would say that, you know, everybody bought some kind of souvenirs to take back home. I had some art objects. A pool kogi cooker, in fact, which is a real rare object now. It's solid brass, and you know, it sits on the table, and it's got a place for charcoal, and then you have a grill, and it's a pool kogi cooker. The pool kogi gi, or gi, I guess. Pool kogi is what they called them, and they were. Let me shut this. Oh, oops, this is my wife. Hello? Supper, is that what you're saying? Where are you? Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm still going on this interview. I'm in Lewis Miller's room. But, yeah. No, you don't. Okay, so it's 1:45. Okay. Why don't you come down to the lobby and then we'll hook up. Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Well, thank you for answering that question. Just helped my curiosity. I don't know how much our viewers wanted to know that.
Yeah. Well, in terms of what we did, I did a lot of photography.
Mm.
You You know, I had a Nikon XF camera that I bought at the PX. Took, who knows, 500, 600 slides, some black and white, some coded color. We had our own base. We had a dark room where we could do our own photo finishing.
Have you digitized any of these pictures?
I have. I've got some of them are on discs.
Oh, are any of them on their site, on your website, on the group's website?
Oh yeah, there's like thousands of pictures on there.
That you've taken?
No.
Oh.
Who knows? I submitted what I thought was pretty good stuff years and years ago. 18 years ago, or whatever, 19. But it's a long story. It's not interesting, but we had a server and lost it, and a lot of stuff disappeared. But there are still some of my photos on the website. Yeah.
Okay. Well, feel free to share those with us, and we can put them on your interview.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Did you keep in contact with your folks at home?
Oh yeah. I did and I didn't. I was, the Red Cross actually contacted the company commander of my company. And, you know, my mom was not hearing from me at the rate she wanted to. And so I was taken into the orderly room and yelled at, and I think I called home, I think, yeah. And then I tried to write more.
Yeah, that was in our first briefing at if I have to hear from your parents about you, you're going to wish you were dead.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. But I wouldn't say I was a big shopper, but there were certain things I wanted to get that were interesting and artifacts.
Do you still have them?
Some of them. You know, the Koreans wore, you probably didn't see it, but they wore rubber shoes called chogi shoes when I was there. And I had some pairs of chogi shoes. And they all, it was bad quality material, and they all got stiff and broke. And so I have, all I've got left is I had a great little pair of toddler shoes. And I've kept them, and they look awful, and they're sort of hard and so on, but I've kept them because they're colored and green and red and they have a design. And I've got my Kogi cooker.
You still use it?
Well, up until very recently, but it needs a really solid cleaning. If you could see it, and you'd see why it has little crevices in places, and so I'd have to really clean it, and I'm going to.
Just gotta find the time.
Yeah.
Well, now is the time for being with friends and visiting.
Yeah.
Are you a part of any other veterans groups?
No.
Just hanging out with the people you like.
Conway vets.
Did you serve anywhere else?
Not really. I mean, after basic, I was stationed at Two Rock Ranch Station, and then I went to Korea. I was at Company B North, and then I wound up and I'm really glad, very thankful for that. I wound up at the 226th U.S. ASA Operations Company. Of course, I can say that it doesn't exist. It's gone.
Okay. Where was that located?
Conwado.
Oh, okay, that was the base
Yeah,
name
that's
in
the island.
Conguado.
Yeah.
No one has ever told me that. Oh, I've just only heard the base Conguado.
Oh, yeah, Conwado. Do is means island, and Conwa, something, Kong is river, of course, in Korean. And it sits right up from Incheon. The Yellow River comes across this way and down this way. They call this the estuary. So the Conwado was river something island, but Do means island. And Conwado is an island, and we were stationed on the top of a mountain on Conwado. Koryo-san is the name of the mountain. So we were on a mountain, on an island. When I got to Korea and went to the island for the first time, it was an island. There were no bridges, there was no way to get there except by ferry. And the ferry was run by the Koreans, and it was really ramshackle. In fact, we lost a guy off that ferry.
Wow.
An ASA guy, yeah. He got confused and drove his 3/4-ton truck off the back of the ferry. Sad, really sad situation. But yeah, it was a real island. Now, shortly after I left, I think they built a couple of bridges. And now, my God, if you go to Congo, it's like a tourist destination. And, you know, they've got these big, fabulous bridges. So.
After that, you ETS'd and went home.
Korea, yeah, I got it early out for Christmas, 3 months. I was supposed to get out in March. I got out in December 11th. The date actually is December 11th, I think, 1964. I didn't want to get out. I wanted to stay the extra 3 months. Had a lot of friends, and, you know, I liked it there. Had the language.
You didn't want to re-enlist?
I came close to re-enlisting, actually. Real close. And they had a bonus. Forget how much it was. It was over $1,000, I think, that I could have gotten.
That's almost a year's pay back then.
Yeah, I know. It was a pretty good bonus. Re-enlistment bonus, but I went the other way and used the GI Bill. Every penny of it I used to get 2.5 college degrees.
Great job.
Oh, it ran out. In fact, I had actually gotten a couple of, I forget what they call them, extensions. You know, but I used every penny of my GI Bill and I got 3 degrees, basically. 2.5, and then I paid for the rest. But I didn't pay for the rest because by then I had the assistantships.
What'd you get your degrees in?
Political science.
You're ready for college.
Then I was, yeah, I was ready.
And what'd you do with those degrees?
Well, I had a 23-year career as a professor of political science.
I married one of those.
Did you really? Oh my God, that's interesting. Yeah.
A professor, not a political science.
Oh, not a political science professor. Yeah, professors are interesting.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Like nobody I know in the Congo Vets group knows that they're part of a 3,000-year tradition. yeah, professors are interesting, and they're also, you know, not interesting.
Do you think that your military career, what you did there, made you want to go into political science?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I would say that, yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm happy that gave you some direction.
Oh, yeah, I did. Oh.
And I'm more than happy that it paid for that direction.
Yeah, I was drifting around, of course, as I've already described, and you know, flunked out of junior college. By the time I got out, I did come close to re-enlisting. That's a whole different thing, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Well, I didn't know, did I? Actually, I applied for 2 jobs when I got back to Kansas City. CIA and graduate school. And I got the CIA job, but it was a contract job, and it wasn't permanent. And but there are, of course, as many people know and many don't, there are CIA recruiters in Kansas City, along with many other cities. I mean, they had an office that was listed in the phone book. And I went down and talked to them, filled out paper, and they actually offered me a position back in Korea with the CIA. But, you know, it was, again, a contract, and it was I had no idea what I would have been doing. It wasn't clear. So, after I got out of the Army, I went to graduate school, and that's where I wound up as an academic. And yes, my Army experience, I did a lot of reading. I should mention that, because along with photography and a little bit of shopping, I mean, I did a lot of reading in Korea. And we had a library on the post, and you know, I read a good bit about what you would call politics and history. They had a lot of books in that library. I remember there was a book, This Kind of War, written by T.R. Fehrenbach. It was a kind of a controversial book about the Korean War. And I was very fascinated with that. But there were a lot of others. I mean, I read a lot of World War II history. Not World War I, but that came later. But World War II.
Did you grow any fascination with Vietnam?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
wanted to avoid Vietnam, of course. And
Politically,
but politically. Well, there's a lot of discussion about Vietnam among the troops in Korea on post, you know, and we had a few people who'd been there and served in various capacities, and then, you know, were in the Army in Korea. But they'd been to Vietnam and had a lot to say about it, of course. And then there were several who wanted to go to Vietnam. I mean, they really wanted to go for a lot of reasons. You know, if you go to an active zone like Vietnam, you get promoted. And it's thought to be good for a career in the military. I'm sure it is.
Okay. When did you meet your wife?
When?
Uh-huh.
Ooh. New Year's Eve, 19. We just had our 50th anniversary.
That's good enough. I'll take that and run with it.
50th anniversary. But a New Year's Eve party at my friend's house.
What message would you like to leave for future generations that will hear or see this interview?
The military can be a very valuable experience. That's the message, I guess, or a message.
Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview?
Wow, that's another good question, of course. I think not. I mean, I can't think of anything profound to say. So, you know.
Do you have any children you'd like to give shout outs to right quick?
Well, we have one son.
Okay.
Walt Whitman Wheat he's just turned 47.
All right.
He's not been in the military.
Grandbabies?
One.
Oh, how exciting.
15 years old, female, Savannah.
Okay. Hi, Savannah.
Savannah Ruth Wheat.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll shut it off here because we would not like to leave the missus waiting. So that concludes our interview with Edward Wheat II. Thank you so much for your time today and for your military service. You have been a pleasure to interview, and I very, 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 very much so appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. It's interesting to see what people want to know and so